G'day. 4 races, 4 contenders, 1 champion. Here's who I think wins the 2025 F1 World Drivers' Championship. The championship fight is still very alive and very close. And as someone who spent nearly 8 years of my life photographing almost every F1 Grand Prix, I thought it only fitting to share my predictions on who I think will win the 2025 World Drivers' Championship. And who might my pick be? Well, I predict it'll finish on top. And before I tell you how I think that plays out for him over the next few races, let's take a look at the current state of the championship battle. There are still 4 drivers technically able to win the championship. Your current leader, Lando Norris, on 357 points. Second place and 1 point behind him is Oscar Piastri, and in third, 36 points behind Lando, is Max Verstappen. And in fourth, 99 points behind the leader, is George Russell. There are 4 feature races and 2 sprint races left in the season, leaving a maximum of 116 points available for a driver who manages to win every one of those races. So that being said, I'm going to knock George Russell out of contention already, as it would take an absolute miracle for him to win every race, while the other 3 drivers ahead of him DNF'd in every race. Bye-bye, George. This is not your year. That leaves 3 drivers, Lando, Oscar and Max. And these are the last 5 race results. You can see Lando's form is on the up. Max's form is steady, winning 3 of the last 5 races and not missing the podium once, while Oscar's form is on the downslide. Does this tell us anything though? Well, I think it gives Lando a lot of confidence, especially considering his dominant performance in Mexico City. Oscar's form, well, it's been worrying, but I don't think the slide will continue. He'll bounce back and is certainly due for some luck. And Max, I think he will continue to perform with top 3 finishes in the final 6 races. With all this in mind, let's look at Brazil. The weekend looks like it's going to be wet. It's a given here, unfortunately. Well, maybe fortunately. It's also a sprint weekend. Last year, Max came from 17th on the grid to win the race in the wet. A spectacular performance from the Dutchman. Weather reports currently say rain will hold off for Sunday's race, but the rest of the weekend is at risk. But with Brazil, you never know. On paper, this track looks like it will be better suited to the McLarens, but Red Bull have had better performance recently on high downforce tracks compared to the start of the year. And considering the chance of rain, I think it gives Max Verstappen the edge here. The track is also more suited to Piastri than Mexico, so we should expect him to be closer to the front, but I don't think he gets the better of Lando in the wet without some luck. These 3 will fight it out for the podium in both races. Expect rain for both the sprint on Saturday morning and qualifying on the Friday afternoon. So my money's on Max to win this race, with Norris in second and Piastri third. If that happens, this is what the standings will look like. Lando 364, 2 ahead of Oscar, and Max on 329. Last year, qualifying for the feature race on Saturday afternoon was an absolute disaster. Heavy rain on Saturday afternoon saw the original Saturday afternoon quali session postponed until 7:30 a.m. Sunday morning. That qualifying session was also run under rainy skies with red flags, which saw some results distorted. Max qualified 12th, Lando 1st, and Oscar 8th. And red flags towards the end of any quali session could spell disaster, like it did in 2023 when a backmarker like Kevin Magnussen ended up on pole. But I'm going to assume that all 3 drivers get in a clean lap, which is why I have it in the same order as the sprint quali: Verstappen, Norris, and then Piastri. Let's go to Sunday's race. My money is on Verstappen winning, Oscar overtaking Lando at some point, resulting in Max on the top step, Piastri second, and Lando third. And by the way, could you please have a look and check that you're subscribed? A lot of you think you are, but actually aren't, and a simple press of this button will remedy that situation. Thanks in advance. This would be the standings at the end of Brazil, Max closing the gap to the leader, while Oscar takes back his championship lead. And then we head to Las Vegas with Oscar leading Lando by a solitary point. There, neither Norris or Piastri have qualified or finished higher than P6. This makes Vegas hard to predict. The track features long straights and slower corners, so it's much more likely to be a dominant Red Bull track. And note that Max has won at this track before in their snazzy white Red Bull race suit. With McLaren's past lack of pace at this track, I see them being challenged by the likes of a Ferrari or Mercedes, although the 2025 McLaren is a much better car than last year's, so I think they'll be pretty close to George, Kimi, Lewis, and or Charles. And if there's a real chance for Max to claw back some decent points, I'd say it would be at this race in Vegas. If we look at qualifying, Lando has out-qualified Oscar at both races in the past, and I don't think that changes this year, which is why I have Lando in P5 and Oscar P7. And Max, let's put him on pole. Again, I think this will be very much a Max-dominated race. So I have him to win it here again in what I picture being a pretty dominant performance. Lando will struggle to make up ground against what I picture being the Ferraris and Mercedes in front of him, so I think he gains 1 place, remains there, and I have Oscar gaining a place as well. So it finishes Max P1, Lando P4, and Oscar in 6th. This is what the championship standings look like after Las Vegas. Lando in front by 3 and 12 in front of Max. As you can see, if this happens, things are certainly spicing up at the top of the championship table. Next up, we're off to the Middle East with the first of the double header being Doha in Qatar. And this race should suit the McLarens. It's high speed, high downforce. And last year, they locked the sprint out 1-2 with Oscar finishing first. But that's only because Lando gave him the win before the line. Nothing like that will be happening this year though. They faltered in qualifying for the feature race, with Lando qualifying P4 and Oscar 5. The gap though was tight, 0.057 of a second. So I expect this to be a close one again between the two in terms of qualifying. Oscar ended up finishing third in the feature race, whereas Lando was back in 10th, although that was after a stop-and-go penalty ruined his race. Without the penalty, he likely would have finished ahead of Oscar. Max won the feature race last year by some 6 seconds. This is a sprint weekend, and here's my predictions for qualifying in both of those qualifying sessions. Lando from Oscar with Max third. The McLaren is just much more dominant this year compared to last year, and they won't let the feature race slip through their hands again. I suspect they'll have a big gap over Max come the end of that race. So that would leave the standings looking like this before we head into that final race in Abu Dhabi. Lando 424, Oscar 413, and Max 24 behind the leader on 400. This leaves Lando with a very healthy gap heading into that final race of the year, and Max Verstappen still with a chance to take his 5th title. If he won, he'd be relying on Lando to finish 11th or worse, and Oscar to finish 5th or worse. So Abu Dhabi, the scene of the clincher in 2021 that divided the Formula One world dramatically. This track favours the McLarens. It features a number of fast corners, although as previously mentioned, Red Bull should not be counted out here. Other than these two teams, I don't see the other teams touching the McLarens and Max here. I'd expect both McLarens to qualify well under lights in Abu Dhabi. Both McLarens qualified well under lights last year in Abu Dhabi, with Lando on pole from Oscar 2nd. The year prior, Oscar qualified 3rd, with Lando 2 places behind him. Last year, the McLaren was quicker than the Red Bull around this circuit, and I certainly expect that to be the same here this year, although Max is a 4-time pole sitter here and a winner in Abu Dhabi. Those results were from a time when Red Bull was a more dominant car. No doubt qualifying will be gripping, and the race more so. So what are my predictions for qualifying? I have Lando to qualify on top. He did much better than his teammate here last year, and he's really come into form this year. Oscar should grab an easy 2nd place in front of Max, and the rest of the field trail behind them. That will give us a mighty scene for the last race of the year. Lando with everything to lose, Oscar with everything to gain, and Max behind, hoping for some real drama ahead of him. My money is on the race finishing as they started, with Lando Norris taking his first ever World Drivers' Championship by 18 points from his teammate Oscar Piastri, and Max 34 points off in 3rd. That's my take on the run to the end of the 2025 season. But of course, there's a whole lot of things that have to go exactly right for my prediction to be anywhere near right. Chances are, some of them might happen, but certainly not all of them. And I know some of you will say, hey, you're Australian. You should be going for Oscar. Well, this isn't who I'm supporting in the championship, though. This is who I realistically think will win. The fact of the matter is, I'm happy to see any of those top 3 win the championship. I've been shooting F1 since Lando's debut, and I think he's a great kid, and certainly a talented driver. Oscar, another great bloke, amazing driver and a fellow countryman. So yes, I'd be thrilled to see him wind up with this trophy as well. And if Max were to win it, it would be the most impressive comeback the sport has ever seen. So that would solidify him as one of the all-time greats. And everybody loves an underdog. But in the end, I see Lando Norris sealing it in Abu Dhabi. And that's just my opinion. It's no more valid than yours, which I'd love to see in the comments below. Now before you go, could you please subscribe if you're not subscribed, and at least like the video. And for a whole lot of extra stuff, including merchandise, here's where you need to look. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Qatar, the capital of Doha. No, it's the other way around.